All right, man, peace. So the Golden State Warriors forward, Kevin Durant, he got caught up in the social media vortex, where these guys, they get all enraptured by interactions with trolls, which are basically low-level crumb snatchers, people who get off on trying to provoke other people. He got caught up in that, that BS. Of course, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
Oh, Lord. I knew there were bat phones, guys, but apparently now there's bat Twitter accounts, too. Folks are getting real messy out here in their timelines. Stephen A., if this is true, this is a sad state of affairs. Please talk to me.
Well, I think that, listen, there is no doubt that Kevin Durant felt that way, but really, those tweets to me, if they are indeed from him, is sort of letting him off the hook. Because it's talking about the team, and it's talking about Billy Donovan, instead of the real reason he left. The real reason he left is because he didn't feel he could win a championship with Russell Westbrook.
Well, here's the problem with that, Stephen A. And I'm not saying that he did not also believe that, but the fact that he made those statements under a pseudo account, under a de facto account, where he basically felt like he could speak his true thoughts, and he did not blame Westbrook, makes you, it should make you understand that he does not exclusively attribute his leaving the team to Westbrook. The first thing that he did was name the surrounding factors, and he kind of left Westbrook out of it. I think that the issue between him and Westbrook was that he just didn't like Westbrook's mentality on the floor. But I think that he understood that Westbrook had the tenacity and the overall talent to be somebody that he could win a championship with if they had a coach who could rein him in. That's why he centered his commentary on the coach, Donovan. But, Stephen A. Is like an angry black chick. Once he has something in his mind, he's not going to let it go, no matter how many facts come out and how much empirical data is brought forward. He already has it in his mind that Kevin Durant left primarily because of Westbrook, and he's just going to stick to that because he believes that Kevin Durant left Westbrook high and dry. Why is that? Because the liberal media has a love affair with Westbrook.
Even from his fake account, he's lying too.
Thank you, Molly. See, Molly picked up on it. Why would you say that he's lying from his fake account?
Just to be clear.
Well, again, if that's the case, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, if you don't know, then why are you saying that? Why would you say that? That the real reason why he left is Westbrook. The segment of the show is based on the hypothetical that Kevin Durant issued a series of tweets from a fake account. So if those statements were made from a fake account, one would have reason to believe that they were legitimate and that they were based on his actual thoughts. Right? One would assume that. So as I've stated, the fact that Stephen A. is still persisting in his theory that the real reason why Kevin Durant left was because he did not believe that he could win a championship with Westbrook. It just shows you once again how delusional Stephen A. can be once he has his mind accrued in a certain way. Sometimes when people tell you something, sometimes that's actually what it is.
Yeah.
And I will say this. It's shocking to see that only from this perspective. Say what you want about Kevin Durant, but he's a relatively straight up guy. He feels what he feels, and he's really not shy about telling you how he feels.
Well, I don't know if he's straight up. I would say he's very emotional. I would say that it's very easy to elicit emotionality from him. And when I say emotionality, I'm not talking about necessarily forthrightness. Emotional people tend to be rather simple. All right. And as I've already stated about Kevin Durant and some of the videos that I've made about him, he tends to assess things in a very simplistic manner. And, it's gotten him into some trouble because he does not think before he speaks. He doesn't properly analyze things before he speaks about them. All right. I had a brother who was telling me about how, just because Kevin Durant is saying what he's saying about Donald Trump, it doesn't mean that he wants a hug. It could just mean that he disagrees. Well, brother, let's understand something. Most of these modern day liberal black athletes that you see that are advocates of protesting and speaking against Donald Trump what is it that they normally say? They say that he is dividing the United States. They want to unify. So once again, most of these athletes, they're not truly, quote unquote, pro-black in the actual sense of that term. They're really just trying to get a hug, bro. That's what it means to unify. They want to be accepted by the Caucasian masses at large. That's what makes them feel good. You know, a lot of times brothers might not really understand what I mean when I make certain statements or when I say certain things. It's because, the way that I think at the, at the last stage. I don't just think about what I see directly in front of me. I think about the repercussions and the ramifications. So that's why I say the things that I say. Anybody could look at a so-called black athlete making statements that you view to be socially conscious and say, oh, wow, that's so great. He's looking to make change. First off, when you say change, we have to qualify what change is, what your overall end game is, and how that truly benefits the various demographics of people that are going to be affected by that change. When you hear an athlete say that somebody is dividing us and we need to unify, really? Like, unify in the spirit of what? Under what banner? To achieve what goal? Right? Like, and then you want to come back and talk about the issues that so-called black people have. Well, if your concern is unity, then you should no longer be describing people based on race. You should just be talking about what's affecting the American public at large. Okay? So those two things are to me, there has to be a division there when you talk about the issues that affect so-called black people, as opposed to the issues that affect the American people at large. If you're somebody who's interested in unifying, then you should be speaking about the American people at large. You really don't have the right to talk about so-called black issues because you're more interested in being ingratiated into the majority. That's your focus. So how can I take you seriously when you clearly have an agenda?
That's been his reputation now.
Well, not
okay. That's been his reputation now. It doesn't appear to be the case with this. Yeah. But if he came out and said, my account got hacked, it wasn't me, there is plausible deniability in that regard because Kevin Durant has made a name for himself in bad ways because of his honesty.
No, sir. There will be no plausible deniability from Kevin Durant on this issue. I think that Kevin Durant has shown over the course of time that he is mentally fragile, that he is emotionally susceptible to manipulation, and that he has some manhood issues, and that's expected. Looking at the environment in which he was raised by a domineering mother, it's really not difficult. It's really not that difficult to ascertain what a lot of his issues are. And, it is what it is, man.
That's how he felt. Now, there's been many times that I thought he was wrong, but I couldn't knock him for being honest, and I'm not going to sit up here and call him a liar now. I don't know what happened. What I will tell you is this notion that he has been vindicated, that's for all of y'all. He'll never be vindicated for me.
Well, they say hell hath no fury like a woman scorned.
Because I never doubted he was going to win the championship. Just like I haven't doubted that he's one of the top 2 players on the planet. Kevin Durant is a superstar extraordinaire. He is one of the best players in the world. He is a first ballot, surefire Hall of Famer the second he retires. There will be no debate. There will be no doubt. He's that lethal. Plus, he's a great basketball ambassador. He's a good dude, despite his temperamental tendencies and all this. And we all know how much I love Mama Durant.
Can you believe this guy is stating that somebody has temperamental tendencies? Stephen A. Smith is stating that another man has temperamental tendencies. I wouldn't even necessarily call Kevin Durant temperamental. I would say that he's more unstable emotionally. It's very, very easy to get him caught up in the back and forth. And this is why, once again, and I've stated this numerous times, it's very important that you understand the psychology of people who come into your circle in any way, whether it's personal or even on the internet. Certain commenters who I see on my videos, who are always speaking according to, or in a malcontent fashion, who are always talking about how they don't like the video, they don't like the channel, they think it's negative. I always advise them that you should probably find a better channel for you. You know why? Because a malcontent person is like a weed in your garden. If you don't pull them up and pull them out, they'll choke all the other flowers and plants in the garden. You have to remove that weed, because malcontent people, that's in their DNA. Okay? They have a lot of background psychological issues that they haven't come to terms with, that they express by being negative and by being trolls. Right? A troll is somebody who tries to pull you down. Right? A troll in mythology is a creature that lives under bridges, in tunnels. Right? They live in the places that nobody else wants to go. Nobody wants to visit them. They're ugly. That's what a troll is. So when somebody says, I'm trolling you, what do they mean? I'm an ugly character. I hate myself. I have nothing positive to offer myself, so I damn sure cannot offer you anything positive. So let me try to offer you negativity and see if I can get you involved in my game. That's what Kevin Durant got caught up in. Okay? And maybe he got caught up in it because maybe he has some troll tendencies due to being raised with all of that feminine energy. I tell a lot of these guys here, if I see that you keep coming on my channel with all that nonsense and negativity in regards to your view of the overall theme of the channel, not a video. Anybody could disagree as long as you have you disagree intelligently and you have facts to back up why you have to say what you say. I'm going to advocate that you find a better channel for you. Absolutely. And if you keep trying to go back and forth, yeah, you're a hoe. Right? Because that's what hoes do. Hoes get off on theatricality. All right? And once again, this is a good lesson for him. You know, he's still relatively young. He's not as young as people want to make him out to be, who want to make excuses for his silly behavior. As I've been noting throughout the entire offseason, he's been talking way too much. Talking way too much about way too many topics that he really knows nothing about. Talking about other sneaker companies and politics and all these other things that he's not well versed in. He needs to sit his ass in his room and think about how he wants to become a better man, work on his game. And he's the type of person that, as he says, whenever he faces any type of adversity, he goes into his shell and he can't eat for 2 days and 3 days, like he said about this issue. He said the same thing after he left Oklahoma City. He couldn't sleep. He didn't want to go outside. So if you know that that's your nature, then you should not involve yourself in those type of forums where you're facing people who are trolls, who basically are losers, idiots, have nothing positive to offer themselves or anybody else. All right? Remove them from your vicinity. Life is all about, look at Kyrie Irving. Life is about pursuing your happiness, man. That's all it's about.
I'm going to be kind now because it's Mama Durant. I got to watch out for Mama Durant. But in all seriousness...
Yeah, you have to watch out for Mama Durant because that's your worship mama programming. Stephen A. Smith, as I've already stated, he's a mama's boy himself by his own admission. A lot of these so-called black men, they worship the older black female. So-called black community in America is a pseudo-matriarchy. All right, really an anarchist configuration. That's why you have all these nut jobs running around all these black neighborhoods with no order, no structure. Okay, the woman was not set up to be the head of a community. Not at all. All right, she's set up to moderate over the family. The woman is essential. She's the one who brings the family together. Right. That's one of her roles. She's essential in that role amongst many other roles. But as a leader, absolutely not. But that's more of a reflection on how the so-called black man, he's been forced to kowtow to the woman because she's been set up as a mediator between the so-called black community and the ruling class, that being the elite Caucasian. She's one of the intermediaries. There's no doubt about that. All right, but we'll touch on those issues, those sub-issues a little later.
Kevin Durant is all those things and more. But he did not want to stay in Oklahoma City because of Russell Westbrook. He left Russell Westbrook to hang and dry. And on top...
How can you leave somebody to hang and dry who's making tens of millions of dollars? He was a free agent. He just left. He didn't leave anybody to hang and dry. If you want to say, well, he should have spoke to Russell before he left, that's your opinion. As we've already seen from other athletes like a Kyrie Irving, a lot of these guys don't feel like talking to certain guys when they're leaving. A lot of people don't feel like having to explain to a bunch of people why they've made the decision that they've made. It's very understandable. most of the time, people are not going to understand why you're doing what you're doing anyway. All right? They just want to have this theatrical moment. A lot of people watch too much television, and they want to live out television scenes that they've watched. A lot of women get caught up in that. A lot of females watch these TV shows, and they watch these theatrical breakup scenes, and, they want to execute a facsimile of those scenes with their man and all this other nonsense. A lot of these people get caught up in, the television world. At the end of the day, Kevin Durant, he did not have the mentality to want to sit down with a Westbrook and explain to him why he was leaving. He knew how it was going to look. It's kind of akin to being with someone throughout high school, and all of a sudden, you've met somebody who you think is more sophisticated, who understands you better, is better looking. Even though the previous person was with you throughout your high school years, when you feel like you've reached a new stage or phase in your life where you've matured, sometimes you have to move on to a more mature environment, a more mature scenario. It's a part of growing up.
On top of it all, he left the team that was one game away from a berth to the NBA Finals to join a 73-9 crew that had the greatest shooting backcourt in the history of basketball. Everyone knew you were going to win a championship. So this notion of vindication from what? Who doubted that he was going to win?
Right, but Stephen A., I mean, come on. OKC was up 3-1 over Golden State, but were they really 3-1 better than them? Golden State didn't even really start taking them seriously until they went down 3-1. Look at how they played in games 3 and 4 in OKC. They lost both games by like 35 points. They didn't really take them seriously until they got down 3-1. But, that's a whole different issue. But, people keep talking about that. Look, I have no problem with KD making the move that made him happy. I'm not really too much of a fan, quote unquote, of his conduct in this offseason. I think that he's shown a lot of immaturity, a lot of simplicity. Some people want to be the king, and then when they finally get the throne, they show that they have no idea on how to rule the kingdom. That is what he has shown in this offseason. But LeBron also has shown that he really does not know how to rule the kingdom either, with his conduct and a lot of the things that he was saying last offseason. So, I guess turnabout is fair play. But, at the end of the day, KD does not owe Russell Westbrook a long apology for leaving, especially when Westbrook was not going to be appeased by anything that he would have had to say to him.
Who questioned whether he was going to win? Nobody.
I get all that, but if he did this, if he's saying this from a fake account, what does this say to you about Kevin Durant? I understand all his accolades.
That says to me that he's trying to create a narrative.
Well, it says to me that he's trying to, he's seeking the love of people who don't matter. He's really caught up in all of his so-called followers on social media. People who really are only following you not because they legitimately love you or care about you, but because of the entertainment that you bring. You're a two-dimensional figure to them. All right, you're projected to them through their television screen, and you're taking yourself a little too seriously in regards to worrying about their statements. Now, as someone who is in control of a social media channel, sometimes you do have to interact with people. You might want to state your case. I tell people, look, if the conversation is not intelligent, I'll give you 2 responses. Particularly YouTube hoes. After that, you can have a nice day. I'm not making up no fake accounts please. I get people come on my channel. Oh, I want you to come on my channel and debate me on this stuff. Why would I debate you? I've already said I don't debate. All right. When I say things, it's because that's what I know. Okay. That's what I know. And that's what I see. Right. That's what I know, or that's what I see. I'm not going to debate 2 + 2 with you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm grown. When I was like 21, 22, 23, I'd be going back and forth with cats all day, debating this, debating that, history and the scriptures and all this other stuff, debating, going back and forth. And I'm grown now. Like, I'm not here to go back and forth with somebody. I remember one brother said, "Oh, I want to see you debate. What's this cat? One of these black women is God cats." what's his nigga name? I can't remember his name, but he wanted me to go back and forth with some guy debating. Like, why would I debate somebody who says that the black woman is God? That's like getting on a New York City subway and running into one of those homeless people that's talking to themselves, and you start debating that person. You look like more of a fool than them.
He's trying to create the narrative instead of just going along with what the truth is. And if he's trying to create a narrative, there's only one person that I can think of that could influence that, because nobody, I repeat, nobody tries to control the narrative more than LeBron James.
Matt?
Well, you're saying that once again because you're mad that LeBron does not give you any exclusives. He will not sit down with you and let you interview him. So you're still frustrated at LeBron for that.
Matt?
Nobody.
I don't think it says anything.
That doesn't mean it's not true. LeBron does try to control narratives. He is worried about how he's publicly perceived. But that's common for corporate assets, which is what both KD and LeBron James are. They're assets for major corporations, and they are worried about how they're perceived.
Anything to do with LeBron James. Look, Kevin Durant.
Even Max picked up on Stephen A's unnecessary inclusion of LeBron James in the conversation. Let me rewind it back a little bit.
Durant is.
I repeat, nobody tries to control the narrative more than LeBron James.
Matt?
Nobody.
I don't think it has anything to do with LeBron James.
No, it does not have anything to do with LeBron James, Max. You caught the same thing I caught.
James, look, Kevin Durant, as Stephen, as you mentioned, hasn't made a statement about this, so we need to say that, and we'll see what he has to say, if his account was hacked or whatever else. But
look, in postscript, we know that Kevin Durant was getting caught up in the social media vortex of worrying about other people, and and as Stephen A would say, the narrative. But I mean, come on, man.
But let's assume that this was Kevin Durant, in fact, for a moment, because at the moment, that's what it looks like. He got caught with his hand in the cookie jar. Now, all of us throughout our lifetimes have been caught with our hands in the cookie jar. At least we've had our hand in there, doing something or behavior that would embarrass us if made public.
I agree. That's a part of life. That's a part of growing up. That's a part of maturation. Everybody gets caught doing some bullshit.
And if you just think about your own life, take the highlight or low light reel, like your worst 5 moments that you'd be most ashamed about. If you could like splice that together and play it for people, they'd be like, oh my God, this person is subhuman. It'd be very humiliating. And so I really feel for guys who have moments like this and they're played out as publicly as possible. And so I don't want to pile on. And yet, it's our job to comment on this. Well, if this was Kevin Durant, then I would say, why is he trying to cultivate an image?
Exactly. This is what's known as a cult of personality. He's worried about having fans. And this is why I tell cats, I don't want any fans. Please don't come on my channel talking about how you're a fan of mine. All right, I'm just a person. All this is a YouTube channel. All right, you should not be a fan of mine. If you like certain things that I say, cool. But this channel is really geared towards the so-called black man and making sure that making sure that he can see certain things. All I do is I post my perspective. That's it. Kevin Durant's job is to be a basketball player. He is an entertainer. Entertainers in every walk of life change studios. You have certain actors and actresses who start off in one studio in Hollywood and they move to a different studio. You have singers who change record labels. Athletes change teams. Stephen A. Smith, ESPN is not where he started, and it most likely will not be where he ends. All right, Stephen A. Smith has been on various channels. Max Kellerman on various channels. It's what's known as social and workforce mobility. He has nothing to apologize for. He does not have to go on the internet and tell people why he left Oklahoma City. The reason why he feels guilty about it is because these athletes are made to think that they're intrinsically linked to the team that drafted them. All right. That to a certain degree is a form of Stockholm syndrome, that he should feel like he has an affinity to a team that took him without his permission. OK, these are all things that, we kind of have to scrutinize. Why these athletes are made to feel guilty about going from one place to another. It doesn't matter why. Everybody leaves to go to a more advantageous position in their life. I'm sure that Stephen A. Smith, wherever he started out, when he moved to ESPN, he was happy. Why? Because ESPN is the gorilla of sports networks. That's what they are. Kevin Durant decided to go to a place that was more conducive to his style of play, to his mentality. Kevin Durant is not a leader. He's not. He wasn't going to lead anybody to a championship. So that team Golden State was the best team for him. Because on OKC, he did not have a strong enough personality to overcome Westbrook. And he understood that Westbrook, as the lead guy, was never going to allow him to win a championship because Westbrook makes terrible decisions in clutch moments. He just does. He's a nut job. You can look in his face and see Westbrook don't even know where the hell he's at half the time. All right? Like that time that he took the ball in bounds, had the ball in his hand, and walked up the court 6 steps. And Curry looked at him and said, "What the hell are you doing?" And Westbrook said, "I don't know." All right? That's the type of shit. That's the reason why KD left. Okay? He understands himself to a degree. He knows that he's not a leader. It's not his job to be the leader. But what he is he's a phenomenally talented basketball player who needs to be part of a group where he can be supported mentally and emotionally because he is fragile in both areas.
That seems to be the polar opposite of what he really is. He's trying to act as though he doesn't care when he clearly cares.
Absolutely. He cares a hell of a lot. He's emotionally unstable.
About his perception in the media, right? He clearly cares because, as you said, Stephen A., he's trying to control the narrative. He's trying to tell the story as though it's not really him. But he has the need to say it. So I would say, and we've discussed this on the show in the past, that the important thing is not to be what you think people want you to be. Exactly.
That's the most important thing. You have to be whoever the hell you are. And I say this as long as you're not breaking any laws and you're not breaking the laws of the Most High, most importantly. You have to be who you are. You have to go where you want. You have to be with who you need to be with, who is the most conducive to you fulfilling your potential as a human being. If you're unhappy at your job, find a better job. Better yet, find a career. That's why I constantly tell you, brothers, whatever it is that you're talented at, all you brothers are gifted. I know that for a fact. The so-called black man is the most gifted. A lot of times, brothers do not spend the appropriate amount of time cultivating their gifts. They end up in bad situations, being miserable. All right? That's the most important thing. Focus on yourself. Stop worrying about being caught up in this social media vortex, worrying about the vain opinions of silly people whose sole focus is to bring you down to their level so that they can try to make you as miserable as them. There's nothing worse than a confused motherfucker, man. They hate themselves because they don't know why they're here. They don't know what their goals are in life. They have none. So they just get off on trying to provoke people. That's what a troll is. Somebody living up under a fucking bridge. All right?
The important thing is to be yourself. Could you, and that's something to me, it seems, that's holding Kevin Durant back from being as great as he could possibly be.
Well, I partially agree with that, but I think that he took a huge step in alleviating that by signing with Golden State, because as I stated, he analyzed himself and he saw that, look, I'm not a leader. I'm not a leader of men. I need to go to a place with people that have strong personalities, a strong system, and become a cog in that machine. Because I'm not somebody who can stand up in front of a team and lead them. I can't go to Westbrook and pull rank on him. I can't do that. So I have to go somewhere with other people that have amiable personalities who will allow me to graft myself in and become a part of that overall movement. So he made the right decision.
What do I mean by that? Look, LeBron James is the greatest small forward of all time. No one debates that anymore.
I'll take Bird at his peak. All right, it's close. It's by a smidgen, but I'll take Bird at his peak. All right, better shooter, better passer, better rebounder, better clutch performer, better free throw shooter. LeBron, better athlete, better defense, better going to the rack, and of course, better physique. But we're in the performance enhancing drug era. A lot of brothers might not like that. LeBron James fans, I appreciate his greatness, but look, when your name appears on the biogenesis ledger, and you go and you have a growth removed from your jawline like he did at the end of the 2009 season, where there's smoke, there's fire, right? It is what it is.
Anymore. Kevin Durant should be number 2 on that list. But would you take him over Larry Bird?
Absolutely not.
Could you imagine Bird behaving this way? Could you imagine him joining a 73-win team? All those sorts of things.
Well, it's a different era, all right? When you try to project people's decisions cross era, you have to factor in thought patterns. You have to factor in atmosphere, environment, mentality. This is just not something that you can do. It's like when people, not to digress, it's like when people try to compare Muhammad Ali to Floyd Mayweather. They say, oh, well, Ali was so much more socially conscious and Floyd was all about himself. Look, Muhammad Ali grew up in the Emmett Till era. Okay? He was 12 years old when Emmett Till was killed, 12, 13 years old. He stated many times that he was affected by that. He grew up in the era of the bus boycotts and Brown versus the Board of Education and the Nation of Islam and the so-called civil rights movement. Ali grew up in that era, right? That plays an indelible part in making a person who they are the experiences that you endure in your formative stages as a child, as an adolescent. Floyd Mayweather grew up in the crack era, all right? His father dealt crack. So, I mean, you cannot even compare the different mentalities, between somebody who grew up in one era and somebody who grew up like how Floyd Mayweather grew up in the drug epidemic era, in the Reaganomics era, in the George Bush era, where everything was just about moving weight from the U.S. government on down, moving weight and getting money. So, I mean, when people make those comparisons, it's really erroneous.
The thing that people identified in Kevin Durant, which we usually just kind of the default position is he's not alpha enough. Maybe it's that he feels for whatever reason he can't simply be himself publicly, because that's what this indicates. He has to kind of hide who he really is and do it through another name.
He made $135 million in contracts. He just won a championship. Like, if this is true, you're just thin-skinned. Why do you care?
Well, he is thin-skinned, but you answered your own question. If he's thin-skinned, as you already asserted, which I believe he is, then of course he would care. And maybe deep down, he wants to go back to OKC eventually and try to offset what he did. He seems like that type of guy. All right? Who knows? We got to keep our eye on that. Could it be that Kevin Durant down the line wants to go back to OKC after he's won a couple of chips and do in OKC what LeBron James did in Cleveland? Something to watch out for.
Well, listen.
You're winning in life.
That's the key in all of this.
Well, you're saying that he's winning in life from the outside looking in. Everybody who is successful, as we deem it, when they look in the mirror, they might not see that. You have women who are drop dead gorgeous, but batshit crazy. Look at Halle Berry. Everybody says, how can Halle Berry be single? Just because a woman is good looking doesn't mean that she's a good partner. Bro, could be bugged out of her fucking mind. You cannot always judge from the outside. A lot of these people have tempestuous personalities. They don't know how to deal with the ups and downs of life very well.
They all care. And I don't mean that LeBron James had something directly to do with it, Max, like he got in Kevin Durant's ear or whatever. I'm saying everyone in the NBA over the last few years, outside of Kobe Bryant, has followed LeBron James' lead. All of them. When he does something, because LeBron James is proven to be an extraordinary businessman, an extraordinary leader in so many different ways. There is so much more positive than is negative about LeBron James. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's almost, you can't believe he's almost human half the time because of how flawless he is in so many things that he chooses to do.
Well, I would say that he has a great team. He has a team that covers his ass, and they do a great job. Okay, because nobody is perfect. I believe that LeBron James does have a streak of magnanimity, meaning he likes to do good things for other people. All that's cool, but no, he's not the guy that Stephen A. is trying to characterize. I would say that. I think that LeBron is a guy who views himself as a manipulator behind the scenes, as a puppet master, as being strategic, as a great politician. It wouldn't surprise me if he goes into the political world somewhere down the line. All right. LeBron James is that guy. That's why he loves the movie The Godfather so much. I mean, what is The Godfather really about? It's about two people's incremental climb to power through brain power, right? First Vito and then Michael Corleone, allotting power to themselves incrementally through proper decisions, through manipulation. That is who LeBron James views himself as.
In terms of, philanthropy, uplifting the community, his charitable donations, some of the things, the causes he involves himself in, contributing to the Muhammad Ali Museum. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. Even when he was in the finals, when they were up 2-1, or they were about to be up 2-1, not this past finals, Max, but last year, and he just looks over to Jim Brown, and he bows and pays homage. Those are very, very touching moments. You just don't teach them. They come from a special place in your soul, and it means so much, particularly to my community. But in the end,
people like Stephen A. love speaking about the so-called black community as if everybody sees the same thing that he sees. That's the boule mentality where they think that they have the right to speak for everyone.
What I'm saying is, Kevin Durant and others, you can't help but watch it and see how
he's in the LeBron James era.
And it's like, you're in the LeBron James era, but you see it, and you try to emulate it to some degree. Sometimes you're more successful than others. But let me say this positively about Kevin Durant.
Well, before you say that, Steve, let me address Max's statement about being in the LeBron James era. I mentioned in the Kyrie Irving series that LeBron James is venerated in the sports world. He's worshipped. A lot of his worshipers or his adherents would have you believe that he's Michael Jordan. And when I say that, I mean from the standpoint of he's this phenomenal champion who's never lost. I wouldn't say that this is the LeBron James era. I would say that, especially if they win the championship next year, I would say that it's the Golden State Warriors era. Okay, the championship that he won against Golden State, where he won in 7, that was huge in regards to his legacy and his claim to the 2010s being his era. But the 2010s are not over yet. Okay. They're not over yet. He won three titles. He's been to the finals basically every year in the 2010s, other than 2010. I mean, so we'll see. If that would classify it as being his era, I think that would more be a reflection of the weakness of the Eastern Conference. I really don't care how great a player you are. If you're going to the finals every year, that really tells me more about the weakness of your conference, particularly if you're not winning. It would be one thing if he was getting to the finals and winning every year. Then that would more play to his greatness. But the fact that he's just getting there every year, that tells me that you're playing in a weak conference. But we'll see how this decade finishes out before we can determine whether or not this is his era. Because the 2000s was not the LeBron era. The 2000s was really, the Tim Duncan era. Or I would say the Tim Duncan / Kobe era. I mean, if we really want to go there. But the 2010s has been, kind of up for grabs. But we'll have to see how the decade ends. Right now, Golden State has 2 championships. LeBron James has 3. So we'll see what happens.
Durant. I can accuse Kevin Durant of a few things. Kevin Durant's a good dude. He really is. And listen, and he's not a liar. So again, if he's doing this, we can nitpick the tweet. But Max, they put themselves in those positions by tweeting to begin with. If you want to knock him for something, knock him for petulance. Knock him for a moment of petulance where you decide to tweet these things out.
Right, but that's not a moment of petulance. When you create ghost accounts like that, that's a way for you to subsidize your own insecurity by trying to bolster it, with fake, with fake approval. Oh, well, let me tell you what happened, why Kevin left. Like, it's just silly, If you feel like somebody says something in your timeline or what have you that you feel like you need to respond to, you respond to it once. If they keep going, then you just ignore them. If they get disrespectful, you send them on their way. That's what life is about, man. Life ain't about going back and forth and allowing people to rain on your day. You're Kevin Durant, man. You're making 8 figures just in basketball. You're making, probably, who knows, another 8 figures a year in endorsements. You can go on Instagram and get any big booty hole that you want. Like, I mean, what the fuck are you stressing about, man?
You have many
That's as far as it
options,
goes.
Stephen A. If you're
As far as
KD,
it
you have
goes.
many options. You can say this as KD. You cannot say it all and at all. You cannot say it all. You can leak it to someone else.
Yep.
You can have someone else plant a story. They're all different kinds of things. You can call Stephen A. Smith and just give your side of the story off the record for background.
Yeah, well, he could do that, but after Stephen A. said, "You don't want to make an enemy out of me," after he said all that shit last year, Kevin Durant ain't trying to mess with this dude. Like, come on. You really wanna include Stephen A. in your cipher, in your circle after he's saying some silly shit like that? You know, and that was a lack of wisdom on Stephen A.'s part. Like, you know, come on. Kevin Durant is from DC. You know, I mean, it's most likely that he got shooters not to go there. Right? We don't want to go there. But when you start making those type of threats, you got a lot of ignorant niggas out here. You start talking about you don't want to make an enemy out of me on national TV. You never know how people gonna take that. They might take that as you might be trying to mess with his money. Right? You mess with Kevin Durant's money, you messing with the people in his crew because he's paying them. So that was not a wise move by Stephen A.
You know, not for attribution.
Which they do a lot.
Right, there's a million different things you can do.
Right.
But to have an account as though it's not you, and then speak directly in that person's voice and referring to yourself in the third person, seems to me to be done out of weakness. It's a weak move. And
Well, yeah, it's a weak move, but I mean, look at how he was raised. I mean, his mother grabbed his damn goatee when he won a championship and was more concerned with getting in front of him when they were celebrating right after they won the championship, you know, and acting like she was congratulating him, than really just falling back and playing her position.
And again, he has not made a statement. I'm saying this is only if it's in fact him. He has not made a statement. We don't know for sure. And as you said, everyone likes KD. Everyone,
Yeah, of
it's
course.
getting to the point like this. Let me rephrase it. Everyone wants to like KD. He seems like such a good dude.
Look, I don't think anybody dislikes Kevin Durant. All right, Kevin Durant is a person, is a human being with a personality flaw like everybody on the earth has. All right, everybody has flaws that they have to deal with and grow through. He has to grow past that. He's too caught up in social media. He needs to learn how to remove people out of his circle, out of his cipher that bring out the weaker aspects of his personality. That's all it's about. While he's in that position where he's maturing, people who are trying to bring all the negative to him, now they know his weakness. Now they know I can provoke you just by bringing up OKC. Why are you worried about that for? You're moving onward and upward in life. 95% of the people who talk shit about you on the internet are going to ask you for your autograph in real life, right? A lot of these dudes, a lot of these males are whores, right? And I mean spiritual, mental hoes, okay? They get on the internet, talk all that shit, and if they saw Kevin Durant in person, they want to shake his hand and get his autograph.
He is.
You can understand where if you're as great as KD and you ever read negative stuff, you're like, what do I got to do? What did I ever want to do
But he
except
doesn't
just like
have
play
malice.
basketball and have a good time and be one of the best players ever? And I'm doing all that. Why are people... So I understand. I think I do at least.
I wouldn't even be asking why. If you're great, you should already know why. People always attack greatness, and no matter what field it is. No matter what field it is. You look at William Shakespeare, right, who I've already stated was a so-called black man. I'll be doing a follow-up on that relatively soon in regards to him and the era that he lived in. In the 1800s, they started a series of societies trying to disprove that a William Shakespeare even existed, or that he wrote those plays. They try to attribute it to everybody else. They try to attribute it to a woman named Amelia Bassiano. They try to attribute it to Christopher Marlowe. They always try to attribute Shakespeare to different people because they don't want him to get any credit. Why? Because they know that he was a so-called black man. All right? So that's in all walks of life. When you ascend to a level of greatness, people are going to come for you. Hey, you deal with it, man.
You know, why he might want to control the narrative. But the same way there's certain athletes, people smell something that they go, I'm not sure about. I bring up A-Rod a lot in that respect. Here, KD, the thing that people haven't been sure, the thing that just seems a little off, seems to me to be reflected in a moment like this.
Listen, he doesn't have malice intent. He's not a bad guy, but he can be petty at times, which is so. And oh, by the way, Max.
Yeah, you would know, nigga. I mean, shit, you put the P in petty.
This ain't the first time the man made a weak move. I'm going to say it again.
Russell Westbrook.
I'm going to say it again.
We don't need to go back to that.
Thank you, Molly. We don't need to go there. The shit is over. All he did was exercise his rights as a free agent. Stephen A. act like the man, Stephen A. act like Kevin Durant left him for somebody else. Like, it's almost a homosexual infatuation Stephen A. Smith got with Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook. You know, like how these chicks, they get mad because they claim a guy left their homegirl. Like, get over it.
Excuse me.
We don't need to go back to that. We know what the...
Thank you, Molly. You know, isn't it funny? As soon as he claimed that Kevin Durant was being petty, he shows his own pettiness.
I agree with Stephen A. Molly. I think this is germane.
You guys, this is focused.
It was a weak move.
I think it's
It was a weak move. I'm going to remind y'all of that. Let me tell you, do you understand that Kevin Durant's going to go in the Hall of Fame one day?
I do understand.
Do you understand that somebody going to interview Stephen A. Smith?
Yep.
And it could be 15 years from now. And I'm still going to tell you that move
Molly, I want to address that real quick.
I want to
Hey,
say,
Molly.
let me just...
Yeah, because you're a high-level troll, Stephen A. Let's be for real. And, you know, Kevin Durant showed last year when Stephen A. was attacking him. He should have just ignored him. Or 2 years ago when Stephen A. was saying that Kevin Durant was thinking about leaving OKC, he should have just ignored him. Because a guy like him, you can't win that. You know, that's like I said, that's why I compare Stephen A. to a woman. You don't go back and forth with a woman.
Let me just say one
That
thing.
doesn't make him weak,
You
but it was
I get
a weak
but
move.
you alluded to the fact of an era. Everyone's following LeBron in this era. So what's the era? That everybody's soft? That these guys are bosses in reality, but they act soft? Is that what you're telling me?
Well, hold on. I want to address what Stephen A. brought up
So
about
they're
the
more
weak move.
thin-skinned now.
Yes.
Here's the issue to me. And if you were...
Stephen A. alleging somebody being thin-skinned. I think that all athletes, most high-level people, are to a degree, quote-unquote, thin-skinned. Not to the point where they're emotionally fragile, but they do take into account or accord certain things that are said about them, and they try to use it as a way to ignite themselves to further greatness.
We're referring to the Westbrook situation. I agree with you, Stephen A. There was something about the way KD handled the exit. Not that he chose to go to Golden State. You can get on that, and you have oftentimes, and you have a good point. You go to a 73-win team that you couldn't get past, all those things. I understand that. But the way he handled it with Westbrook, it's perfectly fine. It's his prerogative to think, I can't win a championship with Westbrook. I don't want to deal with who's going to take the last shot, hero ball, ego stuff. I just want to play where they all share the ball, etc. That's fine. But when the way he handled the exit with Westbrook, the way he wouldn't confront him, says that KD it seems to me that he has a problem. Everyone has weaknesses in their character. All of us, we're human beings. It seems to me one of KD's is that kind of confrontation. And this move on Twitter is a piece with the way, to me, if it's him, with the way he handled the Westbrook situation. He doesn't want to just come out and confront it, and it comes across as weak.
Well, look, I'm going to end it with that. To a degree, I agree with Max in his assessment. But Kevin Durant, I think that he's one of those people who looks at people's personalities and he says, Westbrook is not really going to understand what I'm going to say. I feel guilty about it, so I'm just going to avoid it.